Now, 33 days into the war, and what we are looking at, no sign of any de-escalation, because it seems that it has now collapsed into a single point, and that is the very contentious issue of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, on one hand, U.S. President Donald Trump continues to warn and threaten Iran's energy and water facilities, including the oil export hub of Kharg Island, if a deal is not reached soon. On the other hand, Iran's position seems to be very clear against America's military aggression and invasion. They do not intend to hold any talks with the United States of America. In fact, Iran's IRGC has even threatened major Western firms, including Apple, Dell, Tesla, Microsoft, declaring them to be legitimate war targets. And U.S. Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, he has now come out to say that bunker bluster strikes has been taking place in Isfahan. And this is another city there as far as in Iran is concerned, where he has declared that the United States is winning the war on all fronts. Reiterating Washington's stance, he has warned that the U.S. would escalate its response if Iran refuses to come forward and agree to a deal according to the terms that it set. But at the end, the financial and the human cost of the United States' involvement in Iran conflict is mounting rapidly. Early estimates suggest that tens of billions of dollars that has already been spent, and it is also upending lives and livelihoods in the region, and beyond, also dimming the outlook for many economies that had just started showing signs of sustained recovery from previous financial crises.
On the Strait of Hormuz, there are many more vessels flowing through today than there were, as the president has arranged. The president's been clear to Iran, open it for business, or we have options, and we certainly do. Iran is wise. They will cut a deal. President Trump doesn't bluff, and he does not back down.
با توجه به شرارت‌ها و اقدامات تروریستی دشمنان آمریکایی صهیونیستی و هدف قرار دادن منازل مسکونی مردم ایران در شهرهای مختلف، نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران در اقدامی تلافی جویانه محل سکونت فرماندهان و مسئولان سیاسی آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی در منطقه و سرزمین‌های اشغالی را
Srinjoy, good morning. Signs coming in of a possibility from the U.S. side that, they will pull out as far as this conflict is concerned. Iran, however, completely denying of any talks or negotiations taking place. But, however, does have a point saying that there are back-channel talks when it comes to giving and receiving messages from the enemy state. But does it mean that these are talks that are happening for a peace proposal or a ceasefire in the near future?
Yes, there is an effort to arrive at some kind of end to this war. Now, the Iranians realize that they have a weapon, a very effective weapon. Even they may not have realized how effective it would be, and that is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, as long as they keep it closed, it affects the world. It affects the world's economy, and it affects virtually every country that imports crude oil or even natural gas. Now, the Iranians realize that, and the Americans realize that the Strait of Hormuz has to be opened. And its allies, whether it's the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, all of them feel the pinch. That's actually the first thing. Secondly, we have to wait and see what the president says today, or rather in the early hours of the morning tomorrow.
Yes.
Because that's really going to be crucial. If he has a speech ready, if he's going to address the people of the United States, all 330 million people, about what he's going to do, and he's going to be president for 2 years more, then clearly Iran would be top of the agenda.
Well, because today's a new day, Srinjoy, it seems that a new statement that has also come in from President Trump. So we're going to focus on that because will there be a possibility of an announcement that he's expected to address the nation while he does that tomorrow, according to early hours in Indian Standard Time? Because he seems to be already hinting that probably in 2 to 3 weeks' time, this operation, as far as Epic Fury is concerned, would have concluded its objective. So let's listen in and talk about what President Trump has to say. He is now been claiming that the forces are expected to leave Iran in 2 to 3 weeks' time, saying that Strait of Hormuz security is not our responsibility. Because now saying he's been signaling a possible exit from Iran soon and saying that there is no reason now left for the US forces to stay and continue with the operation.
On the strait, but if they want something, but I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote, we knocked out. Excuse me.
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2 or 3
I think
weeks?
with 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
We'll leave along the strait, but if they want something, but.
Srinjoy, President Trump, also being a businessman, is setting the deal very clear. You want oil, either you buy it from us, or it is not of our problem or not our responsibility. Because if you want the oil and a safe passage from the Strait of Hormuz, it's up to you. You can fight for yourself.
Yes, America and also Canada are very big oil-producing nations. America is an oil-exporting nation. So President Trump has said when the price of crude oil goes up, America actually benefits. How correct is that? We don't know, because the prices of gasoline has gone up in the United States and it's affecting people. But that apart, the fact he's saying that his forces are going to pull out in 2 or 3 weeks is very significant. And maybe much more of that will be said tomorrow. But a statement by the President of the United States that his troops, aircraft carriers, destroyers, Air Force, Marines, all of that will move out in 2 weeks or 3 weeks is very significant. Now, what the process is, how the Strait of Hormuz will be dealt with, he's trying to suggest that it's not his problem. And he's right in a way,
yes,
because America gets very little of its crude oil through the Strait of Hormuz,
yes,
perhaps
but,
1%.
Srinjoy, as far as, when it comes to this crisis, if President Trump is hinting that may get over in the coming 2 to 3 weeks, will there be realignment as far as America's relations with multiple countries are concerned? Because President Trump has been pointedly taking out their names and saying that we will remember, because when we were in crisis and we were asking for your help, you flatly denied, and we are going to remember that.
Since 1949, when NATO began, never has one country's president or head of government or state referred to another country as a coward. I mean, for an American president to refer to his NATO allies as cowards was a very important moment. Can you imagine the other NATO countries he was referring to are his European allies, the Germans, the French, the British, and so on. And never has this been said by an American president about his NATO allies. The NATO, I think, is about 75 years old. It was formed in 1949. So as a result, in 75 years, this military alliance has not seen this kind of turbulence.
Yes.
All through the Cold War and after, the NATO alliance had remained firm.
Yes, because
now,
he had specifically
clearly,
highlighted as far as, countries in Europe is concerned. He's been expressing his disappointment with Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well, and NATO countries, of course, because he believes that they refused to join the war when the US asked him. Well, stay on with us, Srinjoy. Another angle there, because as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, very well that it has been weaponized by Iran, and it still continues to exude its dominance there. But the other countries in the Gulf that have been facing escalating crisis there, because supply and production both have been hit over the last 1 month, the UAE wants to force the Strait of Hormuz open. And according to reports, it is also now willing to join the fight. Now, the United Arab Emirates is now preparing to help the US and other allies to open the Strait of Hormuz by force. And according to reports, what's being said that this is a move that would make it the first Persian Gulf country to become a combatant after being hit by Iranian strikes. The UAE seems to be lobbying for a United Nations Security Council resolution that would authorize such an action. And Emirati diplomats have urged, according to reports, to the US and military powers in Europe and Asia to form a coalition to open the strait by force. And this is now coming in as they believe that the Iranian regime thinks it is fighting for its existence and it is willing to bring the global economy down with its chokehold on the very crucial Strait of Hormuz. Now, as far as UAE's Emirates has now been saying, the Iranian nationals have been barred from entry and from transit. This seems to be another when it comes to a step that has been taken earlier when it comes to the countries in the Gulf. They already had shut their diplomatic missions of Iran on their soil. And the UAE has reportedly now barred all Iranian passport holders from entering or transiting through Dubai, including individuals holding valid residency, tourist and visit visas. And this seems to be a sweeping move that could also disrupt long-standing economic ties as well. So taking a hardened stance, Srinjoy, because out of all of the multiple Gulf countries that Iran has hit, UAE has been hit the most and been multiple times. Recently, off the Dubai port, we're looking at a Kuwaiti oil tanker also that has been hit by Iranian strikes. There have been strikes that has been reported in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai as well. So economically, there is a lot of pressure that seems to be building on the UAE. Will it officially now join the war?
It has diplomatically supported the Americans and Israelis, perhaps. It's not exactly clear how it's going to do this, but clearly it has expressed its unhappiness with the way Iran has functioned. So that's really the major point. It has been very unhappy with the way Iran has functioned, and with reason, because the UAE has suffered attacks. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all those places have been hit. And then you referred to the Kuwaiti tanker that was hit in Dubai. And that was a huge catastrophe, narrowly averted, because one, there were luckily no casualties. Two, there was the possibility of an environmental problem because of oil spills. That didn't happen. The fact that a tanker full of oil was hit by a drone is very difficult to even imagine. Can you imagine so much oil going up in flames? Now, that didn't happen. It was a disaster was averted. So naturally, the UAE is unhappy, and it is looking at diplomatic means to take action against the Iranians.
Right. But, you know, multiple of these countries in the Gulf, Srinjoy, have been on a defensive mode. So, you know, as far as when it comes to their air defense systems that have been working, in no way that they have actually stepped in and in a role of someone who they say that they have a right to defend themselves, but there has been no counter or retaliation that has come in from these countries. But if they do join the war now, because the US has already been, you know, giving signs of a possible exit, would they want to take control over the current situation? Back channel talks that has been taking place. Iran also calls them as their brotherly countries or brotherly nation, as far as Saudi Arabia is also concerned. But the hostilities are going to continue for a very long time. Let's connect with Mr. Arasan Singh, also joining us here on the broadcast. Mr. Arasan Singh, UAE has now been hinting that it will now move away from the defensive role and play the role of a combatant. What really do you believe that the Gulf countries want to take control of the situation now, because they have been battered and hammered by Iranian strikes in the last 1 month?
No, Hormuz and the prevailing situation impacts on the GCC countries directly. They are the most affected by it. So there is some sort of existential crisis for them also. So therefore, I mean, they have no option but to, you know, call up this bluff by Iran, or to contest this, you know, so-called closure of a Strait of Hormuz. So that is why, since I think yesterday they have made repeated assertions that they will be very much part of this entire ongoing operations against Iran. And remember, I mean, if I may explain to you, the GCC countries, if you if you deduct the population of, say, Saudi Arabia, which is about 3.7 crores, is about 2.6, 2.7 crores.
Right.
And here is Iran, such a huge country with 9 crore population. Who addresses this asymmetry? There has got to be some other power. So I don't know whether it can be China or Russia or anybody, but at the moment it is the United States which is balancing this asymmetry. So this balance has to be restored for energy security of the world, unless you find some other alternative. So that is why you will find that all these countries are pressing on the United States of America,
Right,
that
sir.
please don't go away with the job half finished.
Right, sir. But it would also lead to a sense of a wider regional conflict as well if the involvement of all of these countries happens in the near times. Thank you very much, Mr. Arasan Singh, for joining us with your point of view, because that seems to be the big states. As far as when it comes to the states, the Gulf states seems to be taking over control over what has been big economic losses as well. And of course, when it comes to military infrastructure and civilian infrastructure that has been hit because of Iranian strikes. Let's in the meantime talk about